"If you want to, then do it," the Apache woman said, and the mountain man did the unthinkable. The mountain man had spent most of his life in the wild, far away from towns, roads, or any kind of permanent settlement. He knew the land as if it were a living thing. Every ridge, every stream, and every trail through the forest was familiar to him. He walked with a quiet confidence, his eyes scanning the trees for movement, his ears tuned to the smallest sound, and his mind always alert for danger. Yet, despite his experience, nothing in his life had prepared him for the moment he found her. It was late in the afternoon, and the sun was starting to lower behind the mountains, casting long golden shadows across the rugged landscape. The mountain man had been tracking game for several days, moving carefully through the thick forest. He was tired, but his instincts never let him relax completely. He noticed the sudden silence of the birds and the rustle of leaves underfoot that didn't match the usual patterns of wildlife. Something, or someone, was out there. Through the trees he saw her, a young Apache woman lying against a fallen log. She was alone, and she looked hurt. Her clothes were torn, and a deep bruise ran along her arm. The mountain man approached slowly, careful not to startle her. He could see the tension in her posture. She was on edge, ready to defend herself if necessary. But she was clearly injured, and he knew that leaving her there would mean certain danger. He knelt beside her, speaking in a calm voice. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, showing her that he meant no harm. The Apache woman flinched at first, but there was something in his tone that made her pause. She looked at him with sharp, wary eyes, as if trying to decide whether she could trust him. Trust, he knew, was not given easily, especially in times like these. The mountain man examined her injuries carefully. There was a large scratch across her leg, and a smaller, more painful wound near her side. He tore a piece of cloth from his shirt to bind the bleeding. The Apache woman hissed slightly at the pain but did not resist. She allowed him to work, though she watched every movement closely. In that moment, there was a strange kind of understanding between them, a recognition of mutual need. She needed help, and he could provide it, but neither of them could yet be sure of what the other might expect in return. Once the bleeding was slowed, he offered her some water from his canteen. She took it cautiously, drinking in small sips, her eyes never leaving him. There was a strength about her, even in her weakened state, that impressed him. She was not the kind of person to simply lie down and give up. She had faced danger before, he could tell, and she would face it again. "You're brave," he said quietly, almost to himself. She looked at him, a faint smile tugging at the corner of her lips, though her eyes remained guarded. Then, in a tone that was almost challenging, she said something that stopped him in his tracks. "If you want to, then do it." The mountain man froze. Her words were simple, but their meaning was layered. He could feel the weight of them pressing on him. She wasn't asking for anything obvious. There was no clear instruction. It was more of a test, a challenge. She was daring him to act, to step beyond what was comfortable or expected. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the forest around them seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, connected by a fragile thread of trust, and the unspoken question. What would he do? He thought about the path ahead. He could leave her here, follow his usual route, and let the dangers of the wilderness take their course. That would be the safe choice. But safety had never been the way he lived his life. Helping someone in need was a risk, yes, but it was also a measure of who he was. His hand hovered near hers, not touching, just sensing the moment, the possibility. The Apache woman shifted slightly, testing him, seeing if he would hesitate. There was a spark of defiance in her gaze, a hint that she would not simply wait for someone else to make decisions for her. She had survived this long by relying on her instincts, on her courage, and she expected the same from others. She wasn't demanding, but she was clear. Action was necessary, and she wanted to see if he had the will to take it. After a long moment, he nodded slightly, more to himself than to her. He knew what he had to do, even if the path was dangerous. He offered her a hand, not just to help her stand, but to make a silent promise that he would stay by her side until the immediate danger had passed. She accepted, her grip firm despite her injury. In that small exchange, something unspoken passed between them, a bond formed not by words, but by the courage to act when it was needed most. Together they moved slowly through the forest. He supported her weight, making sure she could navigate the uneven terrain. Every crack of a branch underfoot or sudden rustle of leaves made them both tense. The forest, which had always seemed so familiar to him, now felt unpredictable and alive in a new way. It was as if the trees themselves were watching, waiting to see if he would truly rise to the challenge the Apache woman had set before him. They stopped occasionally so he could check her wounds, clean the dirt from her scratches, and bandage them again. She did not complain, though she would occasionally wince. She asked questions about the land, about the animals, about how he knew which paths were safe. He answered, sharing knowledge that he had gathered over years of solitude, and in return, she shared stories of her people, of the life she had lived, and of the dangers she had faced. In these exchanges, they began to understand one another, not just as individuals, but as survivors shaped by their own worlds, now crossing paths in a moment of crisis. As night fell, they found a sheltered spot near a small stream. The mountain man made a fire, careful to hide it from any potential threats, and they sat close, warmed by the flames. He kept a vigilant watch, while she seemed more relaxed, sensing that for now she was safe. They did not speak much, but the silence was not empty. It was filled with the shared experience of survival, trust, and the quiet excitement of the unknown. By the time the fire had burned low, the mountain man realized that this encounter would not be like any other he had experienced. The Apache woman had challenged him in a way that went beyond mere survival. She had dared him to act when the easier choice would have been to do nothing. And he had chosen to act. That simple decision, made in the shadow of the mountains and the fading light, set the stage for a story that neither of them could have predicted. The night passed slowly. The mountain man stayed alert, listening to every sound in the dark, while the Apache woman rested as best she could. In the quiet hours, he thought about what her words meant, and what might come next. He did not yet know the full extent of the challenges they would face, but he understood that he had made a choice that would change the course of both their lives. He had stepped into the unknown, guided by courage and the spark of trust she had ignited. And so, as the first light of dawn touched the peaks of the mountains, they prepared to move forward together, ready to face whatever the wilderness, or life itself, had in store. In that moment, the mountain man knew that the unthinkable act he would soon perform was not just about bravery. It was about the quiet, steady power of connection, respect, and the courage to do what must be done when faced with the unexpected. The morning sun rose slowly over the mountains, spilling golden light across the forest. The mountain man and the Apache woman had spent a night in uneasy rest, but neither had truly slept. The mountain man had kept a quiet watch, alert to every sound: the snap of a branch, the call of a distant bird, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The Apache woman had stayed close to the fire's fading warmth, feeling safer but still cautious. The events of the previous day lingered in their minds, unspoken yet powerful. As they prepared to move, the mountain man noticed how carefully she adjusted the bindings on her arm and leg. She moved with grace, even in her weakened state, showing a strength that surprised him. It was clear she was not only surviving but also testing herself, and perhaps testing him. Every glance she gave carried a quiet question. Would he rise to the challenge she had set, or would he falter under the weight of responsibility? The mountain man understood that the journey ahead was not just about helping her get to safety. It was also about choices that would define them both. The Apache woman had made her position clear. She expected action, courage, and respect. There was no room for hesitation, no place for cowardice. And yet, he also knew that every step forward carried risk. The wilderness was unforgiving, and danger could appear in many forms: wild animals, hidden cliffs, or even strangers with ill intentions. As they walked, the Apache woman began to speak. Her voice was quiet, steady, but filled with purpose. She told him about her family, about the Apache community she came from, and about the hardships they faced in a world where survival was never guaranteed. The mountain man listened carefully, fascinated by her resilience and intelligence. He realized that she was not just someone in need of help. She was a teacher in her own way, showing him new perspectives on courage, endurance, and life in the wild. The mountain man responded in kind, sharing stories of his own life. He spoke of long winters spent alone in the mountains, of rivers crossed and cliffs climbed, of the animals he had studied and the lessons he had learned from the land. He did not speak to impress her, but to create trust, to bridge the gap between their very different worlds. In these exchanges, a bond began to form, not just of necessity, but of respect and understanding. As they moved deeper into the forest, the mountain man noticed subtle signs of danger. Tracks in the mud suggested other travelers had passed through recently, possibly hunters or people with less honorable intentions. He kept his hand near the knife at his belt, alert but not panicked. He did not want to frighten the Apache woman, but he knew he had to be ready for anything. She in turn sensed the tension and adapted quickly, matching his movements, learning from his caution. It was clear she trusted him, but she was also learning how to survive alongside him, not simply depend on him. By midday, the sun was high and the heat intense. They stopped near a stream to rest and drink. The Apache woman carefully washed the dirt from her wounds, and the mountain man watched, impressed by her determination. Even in pain, she maintained her dignity and composure. She looked at him with sharp eyes and said, "You move well through this land, but the forest does not forgive mistakes. Every step must be chosen." He nodded, acknowledging both her wisdom and her warning. Her words were more than advice. They were a lesson. She was showing him that courage was not just about bold actions. It was also about patience, observation, and respect for the natural world. He realized that this journey was shaping him as much as it was helping her. Their path led them through thick brush and over rocky slopes. The mountain man helped her over obstacles, offering a steady hand when she stumbled. They shared small moments of laughter and conversation, easing the tension of the journey. Yet even in these lighter moments, the challenge remained. Each step forward required careful thought, and the unspoken question from the previous day, "If you want to, then do it," lingered in his mind. He understood that her challenge was not just physical, but moral. She wanted to see if he had the courage to act when it mattered most, even if the risk was great. By late afternoon, they reached the edge of a wide clearing. The mountain man paused, noticing tracks that suggested someone, or something, had been there recently. He crouched, examining the ground carefully. The Apache woman watched him, her eyes reflecting both curiosity and confidence. She had faced danger before, and she knew that reading the land was essential for survival. He could sense her approval as he made careful decisions, choosing the safest path forward. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the far side of the clearing. A branch snapping under a heavy weight. Both froze. The mountain man instinctively moved in front of the Apache woman, shielding her as he scanned the area. They waited, tense and alert, until a lone deer stepped out from the trees, grazing as if nothing had happened. The moment passed, but it reminded them both that the forest demanded attention, vigilance, and respect. Every decision mattered. As they continued, the Apache woman began to ask more personal questions. She wanted to know why he had chosen this life, why he had remained in the wild for so long, and what had shaped him into the man he was. He answered honestly, sharing his fears, his hopes, and the moments that had defined him. She listened intently, offering insights from her own experiences. Their conversation created a deeper understanding between them, a bridge of trust and mutual respect that went beyond words. By evening, they found a small cave to shelter in for the night. The mountain man built a fire outside, taking care to keep it low and controlled. The Apache woman rested, leaning against the rocks, her injuries bandaged and cleaned. The mountain man sat nearby, watching the flames dance and listening to the soft sounds of the forest. In that quiet moment, he reflected on the path they had taken so far. Every choice, every step, every action had been a test of courage, judgment, and character, and he had begun to understand the full meaning of her challenge. The Apache woman broke the silence. "You have moved well today," she said. "You have shown patience, courage, and respect, but the day is not over. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and you must be ready. The forest is those who are unprepared." He nodded, understanding that their journey was far from over. He had helped her today, but the true test of his courage, skill, and judgment was still ahead. Her words were a reminder that survival was never simple, and that trust and action were inseparable. As the fire burned low, they shared a simple meal, speaking quietly and thoughtfully. Each of them knew that the decisions they made in the coming days would shape not only their survival, but also their relationship. There was no room for hesitation and no time for fear. They were both challenged in different ways, and they had to rise to meet those challenges together. The night came slowly, and with it, a sense of calm and reflection. The mountain man kept watch as always, but now with a deeper understanding of what his role was. He was not only a protector or guide, he was a partner in a journey that tested the heart, the mind, and the spirit. The Apache woman, too, seemed more at ease, her trust growing as she saw that he could act with courage and honor. And so, as the stars appeared in the night sky, the mountain man and the Apache woman rested, each thinking of the challenges yet to come. The forest around them was alive with sound and movement, reminding them that the world was unpredictable and full of both danger and opportunity. But for the first time, the mountain man felt that he was not alone in facing it. Together they would continue forward, ready for whatever trials lay ahead, guided by courage, respect, and the unspoken bond that had begun to form between them. The morning air was crisp and sharp as the mountain man and the Apache woman prepared to continue their journey. The forest around them was alive with the quiet sounds of nature, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of a hawk, and the low murmur of a nearby stream. Each step they took was careful, deliberate, because the wilderness demanded attention at all times. The mountain man's eyes scanned every movement, while the Apache woman followed closely, moving with agility and confidence despite her injuries. They had been traveling together for days, and the bond between them had begun to deepen. Trust was growing, though neither of them said it aloud. Each understood that their survival depended on the other. But it was more than that. There was a sense of shared purpose that went beyond simple safety. The Apache woman had challenged him, and he had risen to meet that challenge, proving not only to her but also to himself that he could act when it mattered most. Their path led them to a narrow canyon, the walls of which rose steep and jagged on either side. The mountain man paused, studying the area carefully. The canyon was beautiful but dangerous, and he knew they needed to move with caution. Loose rocks and hidden drops could make every step treacherous. He turned to the Apache woman, offering her his hand to help her across a particularly rough section. She took it without hesitation, her eyes showing both trust and determination. As they navigated the canyon, they noticed signs that someone had recently passed through. A fresh footprint in the mud, a broken branch, and a discarded piece of cloth. The mountain man crouched, examining the evidence. "We're not alone." His voice was calm but serious, and the Apache woman immediately understood the warning. She tightened her grip on her small pack, prepared for whatever lay ahead. Suddenly, a shout echoed from deeper in the canyon. It was loud, urgent, and unmistakably human. Both froze, listening intently. The mountain man signaled for silence and motioned toward a hidden path that led off the main trail. They moved carefully, keeping low and using the shadows of the rocks for cover. As they approached, they could see a group of men surrounding a figure tied to a tree. It was clear from their posture and weapons that these men meant harm. The Apache woman's eyes widened. She recognized the figure instantly. It was one of her people, captured by the men as they searched for control over the area. She glanced at the mountain man, her expression a mix of fear and resolve. "We can't leave him," she whispered. "He won't survive." The mountain man nodded, understanding immediately. This was the moment he had been preparing for, though he had not known exactly what form it would take. He scanned the area carefully, noting the positions of the men, the terrain, and potential escape routes. Every detail mattered. A wrong move could endanger all of them. Yet, despite the risk, he knew he had to act. This was the test she had set for him, the unthinkable act that required courage, strategy, and heart. He whispered a plan to the Apache woman. They would create a diversion, drawing the men's attention away from the captive. Then he would move in, using his knowledge of the land to approach undetected. The Apache woman's role was equally important. She would be ready to assist if needed, using her agility and skill to support the rescue. She nodded, understanding immediately, her eyes showing both trust and determination. They waited for the right moment. The mountain man made the first move, slipping silently through the rocks, careful to avoid snapping twigs or disturbing the loose stones. His heart raced, but his focus remained sharp. He was guided by instinct, experience, and the knowledge that failure was not an option. Behind him, the Apache woman kept watch, ready to act if anything went wrong. With a sudden, precise movement, he triggered a small distraction, a thrown rock that landed with a sharp clatter away from their path. The men's heads turned instantly, their attention diverted. The mountain man seized the opportunity, moving swiftly and silently toward the captive. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. The Apache woman stayed in the shadows, prepared to assist if the men noticed his approach. When he reached the captive, he quickly untied the ropes binding him. The man, weak and frightened, looked up with relief and disbelief. The mountain man gave him a reassuring nod, signaling that he must stay quiet and follow instructions. Together they began to move back toward the hidden path. Every moment was tense, every sound amplified in the canyon. The men were still searching, unaware of the mountain man's precise and careful movements. Suddenly, one of the men glanced in their direction. The mountain man froze, holding his breath, and then slowly motioned for the others to move. The Apache woman stepped forward, drawing the man's attention with a calculated shout. Her action was bold, but it worked perfectly. The men's focus shifted entirely, giving the mountain man and the captive a chance to slip away unseen. They moved quickly, exiting the canyon and finding a safer path through the forest. The captive, though exhausted, regained some strength as they continued. The mountain man and the Apache woman ensured he was stable and able to walk, offering water and support. In that moment, the gravity of what had happened began to sink in. They had acted together, combining courage, skill, and strategy to achieve what had seemed impossible. As they rested near a quiet stream, the Apache woman turned to him. "You did it," she said softly. "You risked everything to save a life. That is more than bravery, it is honor." The mountain man felt a deep sense of satisfaction, but also humility. He knew that courage was not about reckless action. It was about knowing when and how to act and being willing to face the consequences. The rescued man spoke briefly, thanking them both for their bravery. His voice was weak, but his eyes shone with gratitude. The Apache woman nodded, acknowledging the danger they had all faced, and emphasizing the importance of unity and trust in such moments. The mountain man listened, feeling a sense of connection not only to the people he had helped, but also to the Apache woman who had challenged and guided him. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they made camp for the night. The forest was quieter now, the danger seemingly past, but the mountain man remained vigilant. He understood that challenges were not over. The wilderness was unpredictable, and every day brought new tests of skill, courage, and judgment. Around the fire, the Apache woman spoke of the lessons she had learned from the mountain man's actions. She admired his ability to remain calm under pressure, to think clearly, and to act decisively. She also acknowledged her own role in guiding him, challenging him, and trusting him to rise to the occasion. In their shared reflection, a bond of respect and mutual understanding grew stronger, built on experience, courage, and trust. The mountain man thought about her words, realizing that the unthinkable act he had performed was not just a matter of survival or strategy. It was about stepping beyond fear, embracing responsibility, and acting with integrity even when the outcome was uncertain. The Apache woman's challenge had been met, and in doing so, he had discovered a deeper sense of purpose and connection. As night fell and stars dotted the sky, they settled in for rest. The rescued man lay close by, finally able to sleep without fear, while the mountain man and the Apache woman remained alert, keeping watch over their small camp. The events of the day had tested them all in ways they had not anticipated, and yet they had emerged stronger, more connected, and more aware of the strength within themselves and each other. In the quiet of the night, the mountain man reflected on the journey so far. He realized that the challenge had not only been physical, but moral and emotional as well. The Apache woman had dared him to act in a way that required courage, intelligence, and heart. He had risen to the challenge, and in doing so, he had earned not only her trust, but also a deeper understanding of what it meant to be truly brave. The forest around them was alive with the sounds of night, the whispering wind, the distant calls of nocturnal animals, and the gentle flow of the stream nearby. It was a reminder that life in the wilderness was unpredictable and full of both beauty and danger. Yet, for the first time in a long while, the mountain man felt a sense of certainty. He knew that together they could face whatever lay ahead. The unthinkable act had changed everything. It had strengthened their bond, proven their courage, and shown that trust and action were inseparable. And so, as the night deepened and the fire burned low, the mountain man and the Apache woman rested with a shared understanding. They had faced danger, made difficult choices, and acted with courage. The journey was far from over, but they were ready for whatever challenges the wilderness, or life itself, would bring. The unthinkable had been done, and in doing so, they had discovered the power of trust, bravery, and the quiet strength that comes from standing together. The morning after the daring rescue dawned bright and clear. The mountain man woke before sunrise, as he often did, alert to every sound in the forest. The Apache woman was already awake, tending to the small fire they had built to warm their breakfast. The rescued man was stirring as well, though he moved cautiously, still weak from his ordeal. The events of the previous day hung in the air, heavy with relief, gratitude, and the lingering awareness that the danger they had faced was far from over. The mountain man took a moment to observe them. He saw the determination in the Apache woman's eyes, the resilience in her posture, and the trust she placed in him. He realized that their actions had consequences beyond the immediate rescue. By intervening, they had not only saved a life, but had also made a statement, one that would ripple through both the Apache community and the broader frontier. People would hear of what had been done, and reactions would vary from admiration to criticism. He knew that courage often came with scrutiny. As they prepared to move on, the Apache woman spoke quietly. "We have done what we must," she said, "but we cannot ignore what comes next. Others will hear of this, and they may come looking for thanks, for trouble, or for revenge." Her words were calm but serious. She understood the consequences of their actions, as did the mountain man. He nodded, silently agreeing that their journey was far from finished. They continued through the forest, the rescued man walking slowly but steadily. Every step was cautious, for the wilderness held both seen and unseen dangers. The mountain man led the way, scanning the surroundings, noting every sound, every movement of the trees, and every shadow that shifted with the morning sun. The Apache woman stayed close to him, a quiet support and a reminder of the trust that had grown between them. She had challenged him to act, and he had risen to that challenge. But now they both understood that action always carried consequences. By midday, they came across a small settlement on the edge of the forest. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the faint sounds of daily life drifted toward them. The mountain man slowed, sensing both opportunity and potential danger. They needed provisions and a place to rest, but they also knew that strangers could bring trouble, especially after the events of the previous day. The Apache woman's eyes narrowed as she scanned the settlement, reading the signs of who might be friendly and who might be hostile. They approached cautiously, making sure to keep a low profile. The mountain man led the rescued man, while the Apache woman remained slightly behind, her gaze steady and alert. As they entered the small clearing near the settlement, they were met by curious but wary looks from the locals. People noticed the injuries, the tense movements, and the unfamiliar clothing, and whispers spread quickly. The mountain man knew they could not explain everything, and even if they tried, some might misunderstand. A local elder approached them, a man with kind eyes but cautious expression. "You look like you've seen hard times," he said gently. "Are you in need of help?" The mountain man nodded, keeping his voice calm and steady. "We need food and rest," he replied. "We have helped a friend, and now we need to continue safely." The elder studied them for a long moment, then nodded. "You will find what you need here," he said, motioning toward a small cabin. "But be mindful. Others are watching, and news travels fast." Inside the cabin, they found warmth and safety. The Apache woman helped tend to the rescued man, cleaning his wounds and ensuring he was comfortable. The mountain man prepared a simple meal, sharing it quietly and carefully. Despite the calm of the cabin, the mountain man remained vigilant, knowing that their actions yesterday could draw attention from those who disapproved or those who sought revenge. The forest may have been behind them for now, but the consequences of their choices were just beginning to appear. After the meal, the Apache woman spoke again, her voice steady but thoughtful.
"You acted bravely yesterday," she said, "but bravery is only the beginning." But bravery is only the beginning.
Now we face what comes from that action. People will judge, and some may not understand why you risked everything. They may see danger, not courage. The mountain man listened carefully, understanding her wisdom. Courage was not only about daring acts, it was also about facing the results and remaining true to one's principles. The rescued man, now feeling stronger, joined the conversation. "I owe you both my life," he said quietly. "Without your courage, I would not be here." The mountain man nodded, acknowledging the gratitude without dwelling on it. He knew that actions, not words, defined a person. The Apache woman's gaze met his, and in that silent exchange, they both understood the depth of what had been accomplished. They had acted selflessly, but the path ahead required continued courage and careful choices. Later in the day, word of their actions began to reach others. Travelers, scouts, and even members of neighboring communities spoke of the daring rescue. Some admired their bravery and skill, while others questioned the risk and potential consequences. The mountain man observed this quietly, realizing that heroism was often judged differently by different eyes. The Apache woman remained calm, understanding that recognition and criticism were part of the world they lived in. She had taught him that courage and honor were not always measured by praise, but by the impact of one's actions. As evening approached, the mountain man and the Apache woman took a walk outside the cabin. The sky was painted in deep shades of orange and purple, and the wind carried the scent of pine and earth. They spoke softly, reflecting on what had happened and what lay ahead. The mountain man admitted his fears of failure, of harm coming to the people they cared about, and of making choices that could change lives forever. The Apache woman listened, then reminded him gently that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Night fell, bringing with it both calm and uncertainty. The mountain man and the Apache woman settled in, keeping a quiet watch over the rescued man. The day's events had shown them both that action always had consequences, some immediate, some far-reaching. Yet they also understood that hesitation could be far more dangerous. Every choice mattered. Every decision shaped the path forward. They had learned that courage, wisdom, and trust must work together to navigate a world full of both danger and opportunity. As they rested, the mountain man reflected on the lessons of the journey so far. He realized that the unthinkable act he had taken in the canyon was only the beginning. It had tested his courage, skill, and judgment, but it had also brought new challenges, moral, social, and emotional. The Apache woman had been right. Actions carry consequences, and true bravery includes facing those consequences with honesty and integrity. The Apache woman, too, reflected on the day. She had witnessed courage and skill, yes, but she had also seen the mountain man's integrity and heart. She understood that true strength was not just in daring acts, but in the choices one made afterward. Trust, respect, and careful judgment were just as important as courage in shaping the future. Together, they had begun to understand the depth of what it meant to act responsibly and bravely. By the next morning, they were ready to leave the settlement. The rescued man felt stronger, and they had gathered enough provisions to continue their journey. They knew that more challenges awaited them, but the experience of the previous days had prepared them. The mountain man and the Apache woman moved forward with a quiet confidence, strengthened by trust, shared experience, and the understanding that courage is always accompanied by consequence. As they walked through the forest once more, the mountain man glanced at the Apache woman and nodded. She met his gaze, and they shared a silent understanding. The unthinkable act had changed them both. It had shown them the power of trust, the importance of careful judgment, and the impact of courageous action. The world around them remained unpredictable and full of challenges, but together they felt ready to face whatever came next. The morning air was cool as the mountain man, the Apache woman, and the rescued man set out once more. The forest was quiet, except for the occasional chirp of birds and the rustle of leaves in the gentle wind. After the trials of the past days, there was a calm determination in each of them. The mountain man walked steadily, confident in his skills, but also aware that the journey was far from over. The Apache woman moved with strength and purpose, her sharp eyes scanning every detail of the path ahead. Even the rescued man, now stronger and steadier on his feet, walked with renewed hope and gratitude. The events of the canyon and the settlement had left a deep impression on all of them. The mountain man reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. He had acted when it mattered most, faced danger, and risked everything to save another life. But more than that, he had learned something profound. Courage was not just about daring deeds. It was about taking responsibility for one's actions, facing the consequences, and remaining true to one's principles. The Apache woman had challenged him, guided him, and trusted him, and he now understood the depth of her wisdom. As they moved along a narrow trail, they encountered natural obstacles, fallen trees, steep rocks, and sudden streams. Each time, the mountain man led the way, helping both the Apache woman and the rescued man to navigate the terrain safely. His actions were steady, careful, and deliberate, showing not only physical strength but also thoughtfulness and care. The Apache woman observed him closely, noticing how he balanced caution with courage, strength with patience. She admired the way he acted, not for recognition or reward, but because it was the right thing to do. By midday, they reached a wide river. The current was strong, and the water rose above the rocks along the banks. They needed to cross, but it was risky. The mountain man studied the river carefully, noting the safest points and the places where rocks could help them step across without falling. He pointed out the route to the Apache woman and the rescued man, explaining each step. She nodded, trusting his judgment, and together they began to cross. Each movement required balance and attention, but they managed it without incident, showing once again that courage combined with care leads to success. On the far side of the river, they paused to rest. The Apache woman spoke quietly, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "We have come far," she said, "but the journey has changed us. We have faced danger, made choices, and acted bravely. That is not something easily forgotten." The mountain man listened, feeling the truth in her words. He realized that their journey was more than a physical challenge. It was a lesson in trust, responsibility, and the power of human connection. The rescued man, now fully recovered, added his thoughts. "I owe you both my life," he said. "But more than that, you have shown me what courage and honor truly mean. I will not forget this ever." The mountain man nodded, accepting the gratitude silently. He knew that actions mattered more than words, but hearing the acknowledgement still warmed his heart. The Apache woman smiled, recognizing the growth and transformation that had occurred in all three of them. As they continued, the landscape began to change. The forest thinned, giving way to open plains and distant hills. The journey had been long and challenging, but the change in scenery felt symbolic. A new stage in their lives, a reminder that challenges could be overcome, and new opportunities awaited. The mountain man felt a sense of hope and possibility, knowing that the lessons of the past days would stay with them forever. They stopped for the night near a quiet hilltop. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the plains. The mountain man built a small fire, while the Apache woman and the rescued man helped prepare a simple meal. The air was filled with the scent of burning wood and the quiet sounds of nature. For a moment, all three felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that they had survived not only the dangers of the wilderness, but also the challenges of character, judgment, and courage. After the meal, the Apache woman turned to the mountain man. "You did the unthinkable," she said softly. "You acted when it mattered most, without hesitation, without selfish thought. That is rare in any man." The mountain man looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. He understood that the act itself was important, but the way he carried it out, with care, respect, and honor, was what truly mattered. Her acknowledgement was a gift, affirming the bond that had grown between them. The rescued man joined them by the fire. "I have seen bravery before," he said, "but what I saw with both of you is different. It is not only in facing danger, but in understanding the meaning of the choice, the consequences, and the responsibility that comes with action. You have taught me more than I could have imagined." The mountain man listened, feeling a quiet pride, not in himself, but in the way they had all learned and grown together. As night fell, the stars appeared, sparkling across the sky in their endless patterns. The mountain man lay back, gazing upward, reflecting on the journey and the lessons it had brought. Courage, he realized, was a quiet force, not always loud or celebrated. Trust, he thought, was fragile but powerful, and respect for others and for life itself was the foundation of true strength. He understood that the unthinkable act he had performed was more than a single moment of bravery. It was a defining choice that shaped who he was and who he could be. The Apache woman, sitting nearby, reflected on the journey as well. She had faced danger, tested trust, and challenged another person to act with courage. In doing so, she had witnessed the mountain man's character and integrity, and in the process, she had grown herself. The journey had changed them both, showing that human connection, trust, and shared experience could bring out the best in people, even in the harshest of circumstances. The rescued man slept peacefully, finally free from fear and injury. The mountain man and the Apache woman kept watch over him, knowing that their responsibilities extended beyond the immediate moment. They understood that true courage meant thinking of others, protecting them, and acting with foresight and wisdom. It was a lesson that would remain with them long after this journey ended. The next morning they continued their trek, feeling stronger and more confident. The forest and plains stretched before them, filled with both beauty and challenge. The mountain man led the way, the Apache woman close by, and the rescued man following steadily. Each step was a testament to the courage, trust, and wisdom they had gained through the trials they had faced together. As they reached the edge of a distant valley, they paused to take in the view. The valley below was rich and fertile, filled with the promise of life and opportunity. The mountain man realized that the unthinkable act had opened the way not only for physical survival, but also for growth, connection, and understanding. They had faced danger, acted bravely, and embraced the responsibility of their choices. In doing so, they had changed not only their own lives, but also the lives of those they had touched. The Apache woman turned to him, her eyes bright with understanding. "We have survived, yes," she said, "but more importantly, we have learned. Courage, trust, and respect guide every step forward. That is the real victory. The mountain man nodded, feeling the truth of her words. The journey had tested them all in ways they had never expected, and they had risen to meet every challenge. As they descended into the valley, the mountain man felt a sense of peace he had never known before. The unthinkable act had been completed, and its consequences had been met with integrity, wisdom, and courage. The bond between him and the Apache woman had grown stronger, forged in the fires of challenge and shared experience. They had learned that true bravery was not measured by daring deeds alone, but by the choices made afterward, the trust earned, and the respect shown. By the time they reached the bottom of the valley, the sun was high, casting a warm glow across the land. The rescued man, fully recovered, looked around in awe at the new possibilities before them. The Apache woman and the mountain man exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the journey they had completed together. The unthinkable had been done, lessons had been learned, and lives had been changed. The mountain man knew that life would continue to test them, but he also knew that they were ready. Courage, trust, and respect would guide every step forward, just as they had during the trials of the past days. The journey had ended, but the transformation it brought would last forever. In the quiet strength of the Apache woman, in the resilience of the rescued man, and in his own steady determination, he saw the lasting impact of choice, action, and integrity. And so, they moved forward together, stronger, wiser, and bound by an unbreakable trust. The unthinkable act had become a story of courage, respect, and the power of human connection. Their journey was complete, but its lessons would continue to shape their lives, guiding them through every challenge, every decision, and every step into the future.